Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No technology should be judged solely by its abuses or worst possible uses. Every technology has constructive uses and destructive uses, and crypto is no exception. Take as an example the automobile, which has a death toll of more than 40,000 Americans every year. The proper legislative response to the automobile is not to ban it, it's not to sabotage it, it's to regulate it, it's to make it safer. And as far as I'm concerned, the proper role of Congress is not to sabotage digital asset transactions, but to make them safer, to strike a careful balance between financial stability and innovation. There is a narrative that crypto and blockchain have no use cases beyond criminality, no benefit, that these technologies are nothing more than a fraud and a grift and a scam. Right? That's the caricature of crypto that often pervades mainstream media coverage. And so I have a few questions about the use cases of crypto. I'll start with Stripe. Does blockchain, and these are yes or no questions, does blockchain have the power to enable better, cheaper, and faster payments and remittances?
Yes.
Would you consider that a beneficial use case?
Yes.
For Paxos, there are billions of people in the global south who lack access to a stable currency, whose countries are plagued by hyperinflation. Does blockchain have the power to afford those impoverished people access to a stable currency and protection from runaway inflation?
Yes.
Would you consider that a beneficial use case?
Yes.
For Stripe, does blockchain have the power to exponentially expand the market for U.S. treasuries and lower the cost of U.S. debt?
That's certainly what it looks like today.
Would you consider that a beneficial use case?
Very much so.
Bank of New York, does blockchain have the power to tokenize real-world assets and facilitate custodial banking?
Yes, it does.
Would you consider that a beneficial use case?
Absolutely.
Now, Bank of New York is the bank of Alexander Hamilton. It's the oldest bank in the United States, the ultimate expression of the traditional financial system. I imagine you're obsessed with regulatory compliance. As the oldest bank in the world with more than $50 trillion in assets under custody and administration, would the Bank of New York waste its valuable time and resources and reputation on a technology that had no use cases beyond criminality? Does that sound remotely plausible?
No, we would not.
Now, tokenization is becoming the future of the global financial system. And as more and more assets become tokenized and more financial transactions become blockchain-based, does the lack of regulatory clarity around blockchain put the U.S. at risk of losing its financial competitiveness? Bank of New York.
Yes, it does.
And if the United States had gotten internet regulation wrong, do you think the United States would have gone on to dominate the internet-based financial system that eventually emerged, Stripe?
Very hard to say, of course, but quite plausibly not.
So it would stand to reason if the United States gets blockchain regulation wrong, do you think the U.S. will go on to dominate a blockchain-based financial system that might ultimately emerge?
No, I don't think it will, and we've already seen some evidence that if the U.S. doesn't move here, the nexus of activity will move elsewhere.
So as far as I'm concerned, in order for the United States to remain the superpower of the world, we must embrace emerging technologies. We must harness the power of emerging technologies to make America more productive at home and more competitive abroad. And any policy that has a chilling effect on experimentation with new technology could erode American competitiveness. I had a special hatred for SAB 121 because it essentially had the effect of prohibiting an institution like Bank of New York from even experimenting with blockchain technology. And I feel we in Congress should have the intellectual humility to recognize that digital assets will develop use cases that none of us can foresee. And since there are limits to what we can know about the future, it's incumbent upon us as policymakers to foster a flexible and nimble regulatory environment that allows for the development of a new technology and allows for experimentation with an emerging technology. Telling an institution like Bank of New York that you cannot even experiment with blockchain technology is the worst thing we can do for American competitiveness. What are your thoughts?
I appreciate the point, and I think it's important that we continue to innovate within the safety and soundness of the financial system. We need to do both, right? We need to innovate and we need to protect the system. And absolutely, we should have the clarity of rules to enable us to do that. And we should welcome competition, right? That competition drives our economy and enables the right types of outcomes for all consumers in the marketplace.
I see my time has expired.